In most adult cartoons, we explored the dynamics of the nuclear family, a married couple and their children. We recently looked at the cartoon husbands, but today we are discussing the wives. We want to know who the most truly good wife is, as well as who has the darkest heart. Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is Adult Cartoon Wives, Good to Evil.
It may contain brief rudeness.
For this list, we'll be going over the most recognized wives, characters who are more fleshed out in their shows and show the partnership they have with their spouses, good or bad. We'll be ranking based on how well they work as a team and how healthy they are in their relationship. As usual, we'll be starting with the most pure and noble character and working our way down. These characters are the good. It should be no surprise that Linda Belcher comes off as most good. Not only is she one of the best mothers in animation, but her love for Bob is evident in everything she does. She happily helps the family business, encouraging that it involves their kids, as it's important for her to be close with her husband and children. She made Bob spend time with his father to mend their relationship, while still acknowledging Bob didn't have the best childhood. And while Bob is vocal about how much he dislikes Linda's sister and parents, Linda doesn't fight with him. She just reminds him that they are family, and she appreciates the effort he puts forth trying to be friendly with them. Marge Simpson is the wife who gets the silver medal. There's no doubt that she's been taken advantage of by Homer more than a few times and is one of the most beloved mothers of animation. Marge has stood by Homer and all the chaos he causes, enough to deserve a high ranking on our list.
You single-handedly killed this town!
She chose to stand by Homer after the incident with Princess Cashmere, chose to stay with him over Artie Ziff and Jock, and always takes care of Homer through his many injuries and ailments. She loves Homer because he makes her laugh and treats her like a queen. While Homer is an inconsiderate jerk, Marge brings out the best in him. She believes in him when no one else does, even becoming a pariah when his actions led to the city almost being blown up after quarantine. We place another character from The Simpsons next, Maude Flanders. While her approach on life is a little questionable to some, she loved Ned. She and Ned were seen to have a perfect marriage. They rarely fought. Any disputes they had were pretty small, and Maude's main argument with Ned was to insist Homer treat him better. In one of the earlier seasons, when Ned was losing everything and they were almost homeless, Maude made sure Ned still felt supported.
Nettie doesn't believe in insurance.
She helped to lift her children's spirits and stood by him in his hour of need. Even her last moments were her avoiding confrontation and doing something nice for her husband. Luann is next. Even before her marriage to Lucky, it's easy to see how much she adores him. She encouraged him to get his GED and listened to him on what to do with the money they received. She pushed Lucky to be a productive member of society and was always seen treating Lucky as a partner rather than as someone to simply depend on. She made it clear she wanted to raise their child and have their home together. While Lucky changed to make their lives better, Luann always made an effort to get to know the way of life Lucky was used to, even befriending his friends. If anyone could meet Lucky's intensity, it would be Luann. Dr. Mrs. the Monarch was an inspiration for Monarch's image and career. She left her family to join him, and since then had been a key part of his plans. She has a way of using her feminine touch to get others to let their guards down, including Rusty Venture. She knew how to play good cop to Monarch's bad cop, tricking coordinates from a robot aide. And when working for the Guild, she slipped information to her husband. She even states that she admired her husband and liked that he needed her. When the Monarch proposed, one of her first notes was she needed to be treated as a partner and not as an escapade. She adored her husband, but wasn't going to sacrifice her own image and self-respect, which sets her apart from many others on this list. Francine was initially worried about married life, but soon devoted herself to Stan and their family. Now, she and Stan have plenty of disagreements, fighting over how to raise their kids, how to decorate the house, how to treat Roger, but there has been plenty of times where they came through to show how much they really care about one another.
I love you, Stan.
Me too, baby.
She keeps Stan grounded and reminds him of the value of family. She always makes an effort to learn more about him, even begging Roger to help her sneak into the men's club as Frank. Manjula and Apu may have met due to an arranged marriage, but she wound up being a good match for our favorite Quickie Mart clerk. She's not seen much in the show, but she is a devoted wife. In an early season, she argues with Apu about how he's constantly choosing the Quickie Mart over her and their children, but is quickly delighted when he makes an effort to help her feel loved. She forgives him after cheating on her, after he completed a list of tasks to prove his devotion to her, showing that while she loved him and wanted their marriage to work, she refused to be a doormat.
I am willing to take you back.
An admirable quality that helped Apu become not only a better husband, but a better man. Peggy is next. While we've discussed that she can be hard to deal with in our King of the Hill good to evil list, we have to give Peggy credit. She loves Hank and isn't afraid to show it. Peggy's more progressive than Hank is, though, so disputes do come into play. She falls a bit because she was willing to paint Hank as a bad guy after they lost track of time on their date night, but was also quick to make amends. When Bobby went a little crazy with kicking his targets below the belt and went on to disrespect his father, Peggy was the one to reel him in.
I would not let a stranger, let alone my own son, think for 1 second that they can get away with showing any disrespect towards the man that I love.
When Hank fought for her honor against King Philip, she took the chance to rise up and beat the misogynist at his own game. Although we've decided to give Peggy the benefit of the doubt, there's no denying her narcissistic tendencies, which is what drops her to the lower end of our good section. That said, her heart is often in the right place, and a lot of these problems stem from her own insecurity. Peggy does care deeply for Hank and Bobby. With that said, we've arrived at the neutral territory. These characters fall in the gray area. Donna Tubbs Brown is next. She loses some points since she hides a lot from Cleveland and gets caught up in petty arguments. She threatened to shoot him if he was unable to win a dance competition with her, was still fixated on Robert, and let him back into her life at the slightest hint of Cleveland losing it, and has a hard time accepting Junior as her own. She's seen as the stable one in their relationship since she puts the most effort into the home. But she also lies about her life just to be around her old girlfriends and faked having multiple broken bones and being pregnant just to get even with Cleveland. It's a weird relationship that goes into toxic territory more than needed, but she at least fights for him, refusing to let Cleveland get smacked around by anyone, be it his father or some random woman.
Nobody hurts my man.
Amy was not the best wife to Kif, but we give her some leniency due to her low intelligence, sheltered life experience, and Kif's clinginess clashing with her more laid-back nature. She loves Kif, despite the long distance they often have to deal with due to his job and him being jealous. Though she had doubts about being a mother, she returned to help Kif give birth to their children, unable to live with the idea of him enduring it alone. Beth is next on our list. We give her a lot of credit for trying, and Jerry is not an easy guy to put up with. She tried to be patient about him being unemployed, tried to keep peace when he insisted on arguing with Rick, and tried to establish an agreed-upon system for the home with Jerry. She agrees to give their relationship another chance after enduring divorce, though only time will tell if that's the right call. Mona Simpson falls lower on our list. While she had a different ranking for her as a mother towards Homer, we have a split opinion on her as a wife. On the one hand, Abe was not that good of a husband. He was stuck in a very traditional mindset where women were expected to stay at home and take care of the children. Mona, while content with it to a certain degree, also began to itch for something more. She sought out excitement and used that urge to help people, eventually destroying a weapon of Mr. Burns. But because of this, Mona had to leave her family without much explanation. When Mona reunited with Homer the first time and she confronted Abe, she revealed that Abe knew that she hadn't died, but was just on the run. Lois Griffin falls far due to her recent actions in the show, but is granted some leniency since she's more sensible and stable in her marriage. In the earlier seasons of Family Guy, she was the neglected housewife. Her days were overloaded with housework and caring for her children. In the beginning of the show, she insists on Peter helping more and tries to patiently lead him on how he can be a better husband. But in the more recent episodes, she gives up and goes right to lashing out violently or just cheating on him. We aren't saying Peter doesn't have a few hits coming to him, but she can be awful in a lot of ways that aren't warranted.
For every 5 seconds I do not have flapjacks, I shall break one window.
In many ways, we rank her in the gray area because she and Peter have grown to dish out the poor behavior towards each other pretty equally. Mama, Francine's mother, loses major points for an episode in one of the more recent seasons. She's been portrayed as a loving mother to Francine, though a little stubborn and overbearing. For the most part, she supports her husband and stands by him. She tells Francine that she still laughs at Baba's jokes to make him feel good and tells Francine to let Stan know he's still loved.
I laugh.
because it make him feel good.
But she caves and attempts cheating on her husband with a much younger and more successful man after she decides not to set up Haley. Finally, we've reached the dark side. These characters are the bad and the evil. Sherry was Buckle's wife after being lured by Roger on the internet. There isn't much to say about her. She pressed Buckle to convert for her, buy a house in town rather than living on the mountain, and insisted he get rid of all of his woodland friends.
It's him or me. Who are you gonna pick? Who?
She insists she does it out of love, but is always seen berating him. Dee Dee, Cotton's second wife, falls hard from grace for her enabling behavior. She loves Cotton, but lets him do as he pleases, which only leads to an unhealthy home. She's not good at childcare and never really pushes or inspires Cotton to be a better person. She's more of a live-in caregiver than a partner. Though Haley Smith is a fun character, she's hard to place as a partner. She seems to be in a fantasy world when things are going good, building Jeff up far too much.
Look, he's a sweet guy. He's just a little lost right now.
She adores his youthful wonder and celebrated his return to Earth. While Jeff is a nice guy, Haley is a dominating person who's seen more than a few times telling Jeff to sit in the closet and talking down to him. Miss Liz had a lot against her being married to Buck Strickland, but we're knocking her down over her attempted affair with Buck's closest colleague, taking his business from him to spite him, and dealing with his affairs and unhealthy habits out of comfort, only putting her own foot down when it threatened her image. LaBarbara is Hermes' wife on Futurama, and has to be low on our list for one reason: her continuous affair with Hermes' rival, Barbados Slim. Any other time, she's no nonsense and tries to comfort Hermes about his issues, standing by him through his crisis and cheering him on when he tries to get back into limbo.
Come on, Hermes! Beat that mahogany god!
Babs, Carter's wife, is next. While she's not seen much in the show, we have managed to learn a lot about her relationship with Carter, especially in the later seasons. She accepted the abuse, as she was raised to think it was appropriate, and only accepted Carter back after he was caught cheating because she felt she was too old to date around. But the reason we drop her so low is because she shoots Carter for giving away their money. Bonnie, due to her antics in later seasons, earned a very low spot. When she was first introduced, she was a supporting wife, happily bragging about her husband and son whenever she could. She praised Joe for being an excellent officer and negotiator, and was sensitive about him being angry during the holidays, due to it being the time he had his accident. But now she's a bitter woman who's tempted to murder Joe to be rid of him.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. I was aiming for your spine.
She disregards him and makes it clear she has no interest in him, even having multiple affairs between travel and meeting people online.
Lois, I came here to have an affair.
Nancy, of course, is low in this ranking. In fact, she gets the Silver Medal of Evil. She cheated for 14 years with John Redcorn, lied about their son's paternity, was tempted to cheat again when she was beginning to lose her hair, tried to leave him behind to thrive in Dallas, and only treats Dale as her husband again when they had a few romantic moments where Dale made her feel like a queen. Dale has a lot of problems, but he's treated terribly by one of the few people he truly loves. Leanne takes our gold medal of evil. We've already mentioned her in a past video, going into detail when we talked about the parents of King of the Hill, but she isn't just a bad mother, but a bad wife. The whole reason she ends up in jail is because she attacked her husband Hoyt with a fork. Due to her crimes, she was court-ordered not to drink alcohol, but even when she's somewhat pleasant, as seen when she first began dating Bill, she still sees men as something to use, bleeding Bill dry of all his money. When she's giving into her impulse to drink heavily, she becomes violent and lashes out, covering the men she's with in bruises and blood. Thankfully, Peggy took her out. Alright guys, what do you think? Who are the most good and evil wives in adult animation? Let us know in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that notification bell and binge our good to evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.